Vidar and Cathrine Ligard are the founders of SafariMission.org. Vidar Ligard is also the author of A Fork in the Road, a book that gives you life lessons you were not taught in school and that the church did not tell you. And that is what Safari Mission Podcast is all about, teaching practical steps to personal growth and development. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Vidar and Cathrine Ligard.
And we are back, and we are wishing you a very happy and a very blessed 2024. Today we're going to talk about how to make the most out of 2024. How do you do that? Very often we have dreams, aspirations, visions, ideas. How do we turn those things into realities? And how do we make the most out of this year?
Right. And the thing is that it's actually scriptural to actually do something to get there yourself. So I wanted to start off reading from Proverbs, from the Passion Translation. And in Proverbs 12, verse 24, it says, if you want to reign in life, a lot of people want to reign in life, but they may not want to take the steps to get there, right? If you want to reign in life, don't sit on your hands. Instead, work hard at doing what's right. For the slacker will end up working to make someone else succeed. And then in verse, let's see, go down to...
That's interesting. The slacker will work to make somebody else succeed. And very often that's entry-level slavery, bondage, employee. You know, if you don't control your own life, somebody else will control it for you.
Yeah. And so, people, actually, let me read verse 27 as well. It says, a passive person won't even complete a project, but a passionate person makes good use of his time, wealth, and energy. And so we can clearly see things are not going to happen for us if we just sit there and wait for it. We actually have to take action and go out and do something with what we have, with the time we have, with the energy we have, and with the resources that we have.
Right. So one of the things then is that we have to make sure that our motivation is not just opium.
Exactly.
Opium, that is opium, hope that is turned into opium. You know, you live in this fantasy cloud hoping things will get better kind of a thing. But things don't change unless we change some things.
Right.
And it very often has to do with what we do more so than hoping that our circumstances will change.
Yeah, it's all about changing our habits, right? Changing what we end up doing with our time and our energy and our resources. Because so many people have hopes. We all have hopes. But they will not actualize if we don't work to get there. That's what the Bible clearly says. A passive person won't even complete a project, but a passionate person makes good use of his time, wealth, and energy. We all have time. How do we spend our time?
You know, I like to tell a story because I find a lot of people that they hope, or maybe we could even say they used to hope, and they've given up on some hopes. We had a student here at Rain Bible Training College that was at the Malindi campus. He was 86 years old. He had been a deacon in his church for 50 years. That's a pretty good long time.
Yes.
Came to school, was trained how to be a pastor. At 86 years old, he went to his bishop and said, now, Bishop, I've been properly trained. I'm ready to take a church. Yeah. And his bishop gave him a problem church. It had used to have a couple hundred members. It had gone down to 10 to 15 members range. He took it over right around Christmas. And he spent a year rebuilding that church, had all kinds of issues and splits and whatever else is happening in such churches. But he rebuilt that church and brought it back up to several hundred members within a year or a year and a half. He's now at 87. It is never too late. And so sometimes we need to start out by taking those hopes that have been buried and actually dust them back off and then do the right things in order to make those hopes to come to pass. How do we do that?
Yeah, so how do we do that? Well, we all know about New Year's resolution. That's a big thing. We all set goals at the beginning of the year, but then 1 week into the new year, what happened? We forgot the goals, because what did we fail to do? Well, there's a few things about setting goals. First of all, you have to set goals. If you don't have any goals, you don't know where you're going. So you will never know when you're there. You don't know if you have reached a place because you haven't set a goal where you want to go.
Yeah, so the goal needs to be measurable. You have people that say, I'm going to lose weight this year.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? Are you going to lose 1 ounce? Are you going to lose 5 grams?
Yeah.
In healing lines, a lot of times I have people come up and say, I need more money.
Right.
They're coming in the healing line needing money. That's kind of a funny. But anyway, so I ask them, well, how much do you need? I found out that 9 out of 10 people cannot tell me how much they need.
Right.
Sometimes I'll even give them $1 and say, will that make you happy? No. So, it's not measurable, it's not defined. And so where exactly do you want to be at the end of this year?
Right.
You're not going to go from $100 to $1 million probably in 1 year. It's going to take you longer. Yeah. So what is goals that are attainable? Maybe you have to stretch to get there, and that's fine. But what's attainable? If it is losing weight, what does that mean? Is that 5 pounds? Is it 10 pounds? Is it 20 pounds? How much? Where are you going to go in 1 year? Right. And then having defined that goal, you can't just push trying to make the goal happen. You have to ask yourself, what are the steps?
Exactly. So you break them down into steps, because sometimes we know where do we want to be a year from now. But in between now and then, there will be some milestone and some steps you need to reach along the way to get there. If you want to lose 20 kilos, before you lose 20, you have lost 5, right? You have lost 10. So you need to break it down and say, well, if I'm going to get to 20 by the end of the year, well, in 3 months, I should at least be 5 kilos down. That's just one very simple step. And another way is, if you want to save and you have a goal and say, at the end of the year, I want this much money in my savings. You can do, if we talk dollars, if you want $500 in your savings a year from now, well, at certain time during the year, you should get to $100, right? And then so you break it down into smaller steps, and you can even break it down into how much do I need to save per week. So every week you have to make sure you put that money aside so that by the end of the year, it has accumulated to that thing. Because so many people, they just go through the year wishing that by the end of the year, they'll be at 500, but they haven't taken steps to get there. And they haven't measured their progress along the way to see if they're on the right track. And if you're not on the right track, you need to stop and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm not reaching my goal.
Yeah, and so it's breaking it down into smaller chunks. But then, if it is savings, that is, there are 2 ways to accumulate money. One is to spend less, and the other is to make more money. So let's say you're trying to cut costs so that you can save. Then you have to ask yourself the question, what are you going to cut?
Right.
Are you going to eat cheaper?
Yeah.
Less meat?
Right.
Are you going to cut out these, impulse buyings that you do throughout the course of the week? You buy yourself a cup of coffee here, you stop in, you get a mandazi or a snack, or, are you going to cut snacks? Are you going to cut coffee? Are you going to change your diet in order to save? Or are you going to downgrade your internet bundle?
Right.
Maybe cut out the TV portion of the internet bundle so you only have internet and no TV.
Or what about transportation? Can you walk instead of taking transportation? Depending on where you're going. But sometimes we just have to look at what can I change in my habits, my lifestyle, that will enable me to reach my goal.
So these are the hard choices you have to make. So you have this dream or this wish. Well, you have to turn that into a goal specific. I want to save, if it's $500 by the end of the year, fine, 500. Okay, well, at some point you're going to have to reach 100. So it means if you're doing 500 in a year, you're going to have to reach 100 in 2 or 3 months. Well, how do you do that? How much are you spending on things that aren't necessities?
Right.
In some cases, it might mean in order to get to where you want to go in life, you have to cancel the lease on your current apartment and get a cheaper apartment for a season until you can, because at some point you're going to have to engage in opportunities, and it costs money to engage in opportunities. You have to have something saved up. And the way to do that sometimes is to live cheaper and to be aggressive enough that you're willing to move where you're currently living. Sometimes you have to go through some of those things. If it's losing weight, 20 kg in a year, 5 kg in a quarter, in a month, the first month, you probably need to look at a couple of, well, what does that mean? How specifically are you going to do that? French fries and chips, you need to get to the specific action points. What are you going to change in your diet?
Right. Because if you're sitting there talking about losing weight, but you still drink 5 cups of tea with 2-3 teaspoons of sugar in each of them, while you talk, you haven't done any steps to get there.
Right. So it can be cutting the sugar, it can be cutting the fat in the diet. You need to get some advice in the areas that you're trying to grow. Or you look at exercise or a combination of the two. Now, with me personally, this is 15 years ago probably. I hadn't exercised hardly for the last 10 years. So I realized I needed to exercise, and I would do the typical New Year's resolution. I'd set a big, audacious goal, and I would make it for 3 weeks and then go, I'm so far behind and then give up on the goal. I did that year after year after year. Finally, one year, I set myself a goal that was small enough but attainable in the long run. And it's a lot more powerful to make a 2% improvement and stick to it throughout the whole year than it is to make a 50% improvement and only make it 3 weeks or a month or 2 months and quit. Because a 50% improvement that you try to make and you quit on it is worthless. But a 2% improvement, if in every area of life you keep on making 2% improvements, somebody said it's the biggest miracle of life is the compound interest effect. And that works with 2% improvements also. So find something that you can change that you go, okay, I can have the discipline to follow through on all of this. With me, it wasn't going to the gym every single day. I started running just in the neighborhood twice a week. It takes me 20 minutes twice a week. And I've done that now for 10 years, 12 years? And it keeps on working. And so,
and so we need to set these deadlines along the way. As you break the bigger goal into a smaller goal, you need to check up on yourself at certain intervals where it's like, this is a deadline. Like if you're saving a certain amount that is doable, you need to set, like, by this time, I need to have this much in savings in order to reach my goal. Right? So you set deadlines and you check up on yourself to make sure you are on track. And if you're not, you need to stop up and see, okay, what am I doing wrong? And like you said, it's so much better to do small improvements continually, because eventually, after time, those improvements that have been small along the way, they become big when you look back in time. So, if you look back 10 years now, you realize, wow, something happened because I'd made small improvements, and now I'm here because I chose to not just have this huge goal that never worked, and instead you just say, let me do what I can do, and because a lot of times these goals that we set, whether it's financial, health, career, whatever they are, they require lifestyle adjustments, and we don't always like that because we have become comfortable with what we have right now. And so adjusting that, your flesh screams to you and saying, you know what? I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. to go running. I don't want to forego this tea or coffee or sausage or fries or whatever it is to either lose weight or save money. I don't want to walk and instead of taking a transportation. Your flesh just screams to you whatever it is. I don't want to go back to school to learn new things. I don't want to take the time to read books when I can watch TV. That's what your flesh screams to you. That's when you have talk back and say, you know what? Turn that TV off, turn your social media off because it gets you nowhere. It adds no value to your life. And go read that book that's actually going to give you knowledge that will help you down the road. But that takes effort. That takes a conscious decision that every single day we're going to make new and better choices than we did yesterday. And that means a lifestyle change. And as we change our lifestyle, over time we form new habits. Over time they become easier. But at the moment, we just want to sit there and be entertained, right? We don't want to go learn. But it's in the learning that our life changes. There's no change by watching TV for being entertained. There's no change in that. But when we can go spend that time praying, spend that time reading, spend that time studying, spend that time improving on whatever we need to improve on, that's when we're going to see results. And that's where people mostly don't do it, because it takes effort and the flesh screams. And so a lot of times why it doesn't work is because we decide that we're going to start tomorrow. And you know what? Tomorrow never comes, because we keep pushing it always into the future and say, oh, I'll start tomorrow. Oh, I'll start next week. If you can't start today, you will never start. And there was a billboard one time that I read, and it says, a year from today, you wish you had started today. A year from now, you wish you had started today. In a year, you'll be so happy that today was the day you started. But if you don't make that decision that today is going to be my first day of change, you'll never do it, because
the best time to buy real estate is 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
The best time to plant a mango tree is 5 years ago. The second best time to plant a mango tree is today. And I don't know how many people I've met. They've got a yard, they have land, there are no trees producing fruit. And planting a mango tree, it takes about 3 hours.
Right.
Or something like that. It's half a day and you can have yourself a few fruit trees. If you just go out, get those, put them in the ground, water them a little bit over the next few weeks or so, and you'll have a tree growing. It doesn't take much at all, but it does take getting started.
Exactly.
And you can't start down the road sometime. You've got to start today. And so it's about making that adjustment, making that effort to go do something differently. And that has to do with delaying gratification. The reason we don't plant a mango tree 5 years ago or even today is because we're valuing gratification above investing time, money, and energy in something that will produce gratification down the road. And that desire of having the gratification right now, I'm sorry. That's poverty. You've got to kick that out the door. Gratification will come all right, but you've got to invest the right things early on.
Right. And so, that's how you can get the most out of 2024 is, first of all, you start today. You start changing today. Whatever goals you have, you start working towards those goals today, not tomorrow, today. But, as you start, you need to sit down and you need to really have a realistic goal, measurable goal, something that when you get there, you've completed your goal, you reached your goal, and you gotta break it down into measurable with timeline and say, by this time I have to be here, by that time I have to be there. And so you need to keep sitting yourself down and plan for it. You need to plan your day, plan your year. But if you do that and if you take action on that, then 2024 can be your best year ever.
Yeah. It takes about 21 days to form a habit. The first week is the most difficult. When I started exercising, the first week was painful. The second week was hard, but it was bearable. The third week was, it was hard, but it was easier. And after 3 weeks, you've established a bit of a habit. Then you just have to keep the consistency of that for the rest of the year. Today, I've been running for so many years now. I actually don't even like running, but I know I have to exercise.
Right.
And it's something I can do regardless of my travel schedule or where I am. I can run, so that's why I chose running compared to some of the other things that are more difficult to do when I travel. But now that I've been consistent in it for so many years, If I miss a week, I can feel it. I want to go back to running. So the habit has been established that well, even in an area that I really don't like it. But the habit is so well established that it's easy to go back into it now. So you just have to break through that barrier the first week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, the first couple of months, and be dedicated, be determined, be persistent, be consistent. In the American South, we call it grit. And grit is you pick yourself up no matter what you feel like, and you just go do it. It's like a farmer milking a dairy cow. You sure don't feel like it at 5 o'clock every single morning, but you better go do it if you want to keep that cow. So go after it. God bless you, and you're going to have an awesome 2024.
Happy New Year.
Well, that's it for today. Watch out for our next episode with teachings from Vidar and Cathrine Ligard. Like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages at Safari Mission. You can also visit our website www.safarimission.org or call us at +254 74 1777 805 to know more about Safari Mission and how you can get yourself a copy of Vidar Ligard's book, A Fork in the Road.